So I want to jump right into it. But first, I would love to start with talking about Amelia and Roman. What can you tell me about them?
Amelia and Roman are my dogs, aka my four-legged children. So Amelia is a 5-year-old Doberman Pinscher and Roman is a 2-year-old Doberman Pinscher. And I had lived across the street from a gal that was owning Dobermans and raised them, breeding them. And I just fell in love with the breed because they are absolutely an emotional support animal. They are needy and codependent and loving. And of course, they can be very aggressive and very protective naturally without me having to do that. But I just find so much joy. They're definitely one of the highlights of my life. And I am completely unreasonably obsessed with my dogs. But
that's reasonable. We're dog people as well. So
yes,
yeah, we've got a chocolate lab border collie mix, so we know all about it. Maybe a little less aggressive. But
yes. Yours is much nicer. My dogs are always thinking bad things.
Protecting you.
Yes. Yeah.
So you grew up in Wichita. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, born and raised in Wichita. I did move away for a little while. I was a military brat. So I started school in England. I was living on RAF Alconbury, which is Royal Air Force Base, Alconbury, from the ages of 4 to 8, and came back with a British accent. Unfortunately, that did not last long because everyone sounds so much more refined and intelligent with a British accent. And in England, they actually start you a year younger. And so I came here back to the States and I was able to immediately go into second grade instead of having to repeat first grade. Okay. And so I've always been the youngest in my classes, but born and raised, I love it. I'm so glad that we returned back to Wichita and, moved away for college, moved away a couple of times, but it always has brought me back. So I've boomeranged 3 times and it's, I couldn't have planned it more beautifully.
Sure. I think a lot of people maybe are here their whole life, or like I moved from Nebraska to Wichita or to Andover when I was like 9 or 10. And I never felt like the need to get out, but I was like excited to get out. So we moved to Corpus Christi for a year and then came back. And so that gave me like just enough taste. But since you were already gone multiple times, did you ever feel like you needed to get out of Wichita during any of those chunks?
Of course. I would say I went to college at KU. And of course I was really chomping at the bit to get out of Wichita, thinking that there's nothing to do here. And it wasn't the Wichita that it is today for our teenagers. And so I did learn, I lived in the Florida Keys, I lived in Dallas, and there were times where I just yearned for Wichita. I yearned for the 4 seasons, the open spaces, the people, just what I was familiar with. And we just have it so good here. Yeah. And I always loved coming home to visit, but it was always good to move back.
For sure. And you went to Cape Ann and you also had a little stint at Wichita State as well, right?
That's right. So I was graduated from Cape Ann, go Crusaders in year 2000, and did my first 4 years of a 5-year degree at KU, and then came home. Actually had my son, who's now 17, and finished out my last 2 semesters at WSU. So I can claim both. So I was heartbroken when the Jayhawks lost last week and they're out of the dance, but I'll always be able to cheer on the Shockers.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking, especially with just rooting for Grady Dick, kind of a hometown kid and stuff. So
I think we got a lot of bad calls. I think that was a lot of it. That's all right.
That's sad. So what are the biggest differences now in Wichita to you?
Oh my gosh, Landon, how much time do we have, right? I think the infusion of arts, the infusion of just all of the events going on, right? I mean, you post a comprehensive list every single week. I mean, there are so many things going on and it is so broad. There's something for everybody, right? As niche as you want to get or as broad as you'd like to get. But I think also just the places to go to do things, it's not just the roller skating rinks. It's not just the movie theaters and the mall. Like that's all there was, right? And then when you got into high school, it was like field parties and house parties. And that's not the case anymore. There's just so much. And if someone says that there's nothing to do in Wichita, it's because they have not gone out to explore or they're lazy.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, there's just no other way.
I don't think you can actually say that if you've tried at all.
There's nothing. I mean, there's not only like say Cars and Coffee just started back up last weekend, right? Which my son is obsessed with. But now they have like a Rigs and Coffee for like the trucks and the Jeeps. And all the
I didn't even know about that. So,
right. Yeah. You need to put that on there. Yeah. Drake can tell you where it's at. But there's just something for everybody. I mean, whether you want to be a horse girl or a car guy or arts or you name it, there's a lot. I mean, we can barely keep up, right? With telling the city about what's happening.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, as I probably should be in the position I'm in, but like, I feel like I'm pretty tied into what's going on.
You're
but then
very.
it's like, I feel like there's always something like once a day or multiple times a week. I don't even realize
people
that's
are thinking up new things. I mean, and that's the beauty of Wichita. The other big thing that I missed is we're such an incubator for ideas and entrepreneurs and startups. Even just as something like that makes no money, and they're just people just created Cars and Coffee, Rob did, and whoever created Rigs and Coffee, just because they love it out of their heart, out of their passion, but they're filling a void, and we have that everywhere.
Absolutely. Something I've been thinking about more lately is like, how do you tap in, or how do you help share, amplify those pockets in Wichita? So Cars and Coffee.
Yes.
There's a very passionate group of people like your son about cars and trucks. Or we had never been to a Wings game before, like a month or two ago. And you go there and like, it's not sold out at Hartman, but there's a few thousand people that are screaming. They are so passionate about Wings soccer. It's like, okay, what other pockets are there like that? It's really cool.
Thousands.
Yeah.
They're everywhere, and not just in the Wichita city limits, all around. That's the beauty. You know, we've got 600,000 people here, and there's a lot of passions.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. To get into your career path a little bit, what was your degree and what was your kind of first job out of school?
Yeah. So I would say that my first job has always been the family business, which is real estate. You know, the child labor laws don't exist when you grow up in a family of entrepreneurs. But my degree was in health services management. Okay. And so I really took a sabbatical from the real estate industry, thinking that I wanted to do medical. And, you know, I love the blood and the guts and all of that. And so I did that in a couple of different medical industries. And then that kind of morphed into sales, you know, so like drug sales, device sales. And then that started to grow more of my entrepreneurial spirit. And so I opened the Lululemon showroom here, opened the Orange Theory Fitnesses here.
Oh, wow.
And then decided, you know what, like, the bug bit me. It got me good. I was like, I'm going back into real estate. And so in 2015, I really dove back into real estate, and really the rest is history after that. That's where the magazines came into play, was just kind of building on the foundation and the connections and the networks and knowledge I'd gained over all of those different positions. Yeah,
for sure. I didn't realize about Orange Theory, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We were the OGs of placing all the orange bikes around town. Yeah. And the city didn't like that sometimes, but it worked. Everyone wanted to know what the orange bikes were for. Yep. And we were able to build that membership base really well.
That's very cool. So you are, I believe, third generation real estate agent. That's awesome.
That's right. Thank you.
So I guess you were kind of in and out of it a little bit, but is it pretty easy to step back, or while you're in it, to see the big cycles, the big swings in the market? And
absolutely. It really is. You don't even have to be paying that close of attention to know. You know, unfortunately, national media is very full of propaganda, and we cannot listen to national media when it comes to real estate, because it's very localized, it's very specialized, it's very relative. And I got my license originally in 2005. So I was there at the heyday, and I was there watching my parents go through it with 2008, 2010. But my parents were very well positioned. Like anybody, if you save that liquid, then you can take advantage of opportunities. Yep. And that's how you really build your wealth. You make your money when you buy the property right. And I was able to really get an inside view of what was happening from them, and they were boots on the ground. And this is the thing I want people to know, if they take nothing else from this podcast, even if it has nothing to do with our passion for Wichita, is that after every winter in any business, in any industry, spring always follows a winter, always, right? So you're not going to have interest rates that stay at 7%. We're probably never getting interest rates back down in the 2s. That was unheard of. That was a perfect storm from so many different factors that we don't have to dive into, because we're going to stay apolitical. But we, no matter what it is, in any, you know, our businesses, in Coke, whatever that might be, like there's always going to be valleys, and you will get through them, and the strong will survive. And when you have strong relationships, all of our businesses are relationship based. They really are when you peel it back. And those that have built their relationships and done it the right way will come out of this just fine. For sure. Absolutely. I agree. So Real Producers Magazine, we're going to start off there while we're on the real estate topic. Okay. Tell us a little bit about that. I believe it's been around March 2019, but how did that even get on your radar? Yeah. So I was looking on LinkedIn, which is one of my favorite platforms, and I saw that a publishing company that I was already familiar with was looking for someone to own the real estate magazine here in the Wichita territory. And I thought, I like that, because although I know real estate very well, it wasn't filling my cup. Sure. And there's a big feast or famine cycle there. You only eat what you kill. And I was getting tired of the grind, to be honest with you. And I thought, I think I could do that. And so I contacted the local publisher here. And she said, Sam, you'd be great at this. Don't touch anything. Don't click anything. Let me just fast forward you and connect you. And fast forward, April 1, I hit the ground running after going to training in Chicago, and we went to print in September of 2019 with Wichita Real Producers. And it's a national franchise. Our publishing company is nearly 20 years old, and we print thousands of niche magazines every single month. This is what we do. We connect the best businesses to their target market through magazines and events and social media. And Wichita Real Producers is very niche to the real estate industry, both residential and commercial. We tell the stories of agents. Everything we do for a real estate agent is 100% free. They can never pay to be in our magazine. That's the big winner, right? It's not a pay to play for them. We love on them. We elevate them. We cheerlead them. We brag about them. And these agents are very competitive. They've got big egos. And that's why Real Producers works in 130 locations across the nation, because we're loving on these agents and helping them get to know their fellow peers, especially outside of their brokerage. And then the other problem that it's solving is it's connecting the best businesses in town to the agents. And that's how everything is paid for. It is a pay to play for the businesses. We create incredible events every month. We have a podcast here in the same Trestle Studios. And I've just created a lot of fun little value adds to help connect the businesses to agents and really unite this community.
For sure. How has the reception been on both sides, whether the agents or the businesses?
Yeah, I mean, they love it. And I'll tell the best agent, I'll look them square in the eyes and say, you know what, I respect what you do, but I have the best real estate gig in Wichita. And I believe that because I get to make friends. My sphere grows every day. And they know that my heart and soul is being poured into this every single time that I publish a magazine every month. And they appreciate it. And I appreciate their support. Our social media platform is very public, right? And so you're able to, follow us on TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook. And that's okay. People will do that. And people that don't want to join the platform and pay to advertise, they can still watch what's happening, and that's okay. Sure. But if they want to be invited to the events, then that's really, you gotta pay to play if you're a business. But it is, the physical magazine is going to basically every single brokerage in town, and it's going to the top agents.
Nice.
But yeah, you got to be in the real estate industry to know what that's about.
Yeah, for sure. I would not know. What's it like being part of a franchise? Like, what are the challenges of that? What are the benefits side of that? And that'll kind of lead us into the Be Local stuff as well.
Yeah. I absolutely have, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, nothing negative to say about being a franchisee. I think it is the biggest gift of my life, short from the people in my life. This has been life-changing for me. It's completely changed my trajectory. And I have this incredible infrastructure, this blueprint of what to do. Now, I have a lot of autonomy, and I've got friends in almost every single city across the nation because of this. And I just say we lovingly plagiarize off of one another. So whether that's, my friends down in Dallas or my friends up in Kansas City or, East Coast, West Coast, I've got them everywhere. And we constantly communicate, and we are sharing ideas and sharing documents and elevating ourselves. And I really do believe in that rising tide and that collaboration. I do. I walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to collaboration, no matter what area of my life we're talking about. And they provide this incredible infrastructure and support. But like I said, with the autonomy, I'm one of the very few real producer publishers across the nation that actually involves the commercial real estate industry.
Interesting.
But I do see a need for it, right? I want to connect the commercial agents with their referral partners in residential and vice versa, because most agents are not going to do a good job of both. I'm not going to say all, because I never say all or never, but they won't, the languages are different. And so I just really appreciate that I'm able to run that how I see best fit for my local community.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And you own the Wichita branch, and you said there's 130? There's
130 real producer publishers across the nation.
Are you involved with many others, or just the Wichita one, or how does that work?
I'm very involved, actually. Wichita has actually proven to be one of a very successful Real Producers magazine across the nation. I was number one last year.
Congrats,
thank you, in profitability and in revenue. And I also, because I do have the real estate background, I am actually one of the 2 ambassadors nationwide to help recruit for Real Producers. Sure. And so Kelly Kilmer, who owns the OKC and Tulsa Real Producers just south of us, and myself are both agents. Now, she is an active broker and agent, and I'm an inactive agent. But we are recruiting. We've basically split the United United States in half. And we are just going out there and finding more real estate people like ourselves, whether they're, actively producing or not, and letting them see that they can be that connector in their real estate community because they can leverage all their knowledge and their connections. And it's been great so far. I've already got one person and that's signed on and signed their franchise disclosure documents up in the northeast part of the United States. And we've got another one working in Idaho. So anyone that wants to own a Real Producers magazine, let me know. Let's have a talk.
Convince them to be the Sam of their
It is
community.
So fulfilling.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Thank you.
How do I guess the top realtors, right? Is that just dollars volume that month or
so great question. Everyone wants to know that. They think that maybe because they're in President's Club or Master Circle with our realtors of South Central Kansas that they automatically become top 300. And unfortunately, I have nothing to do with RSCK other than I pay my dues every year. But what I do is every January, I take several different lists. I pull from 3 different sources and I comb through them. And so I say I live in Excel spreadsheet land every January for about 2 weeks. And I take into account single family, new build, multifamily, small commercial, land, auction, residential and commercial. And I narrow that down to the top 300 based on both volume and transaction. And that's the new list. So February is the new list of distribution, whether that's being mailed, for the physical mailing. And every year though, what's really beautiful is there's about a 30% delta.
Wow.
There's 90 to 100 new agents on the top 300 list every single year. And it's been like that since I've been pulling the data in 2018. So it's a lot of fun to see people that might have come off and come back on, come off, come back on. Someone that was like brand new one year and the next year they're like within the top 50. It's like, wow, it's incredible to see their success.
Does anyone get upset if they drop off? Have you gotten any comments or? I'm sure, like you mentioned, I'm sure there's some ego in every industry, but especially real estate.
And that's the thing. And it breaks my heart when I've got to remove somebody from the distribution list. It truly, really does. But I can't print 10,000 magazines. Right? No, that makes sense. And so I still love on them. They're still in the private Facebook group. They're still in the digital distribution list. But it is a little heartbreaking for me. And I know I've ticked some people off and I know people still don't understand it. But I really just encourage those that don't understand it or maybe don't even like it to have a conversation with me. Give me a chance to, explain it and get to know them because I've told about 300 agent stories over the course of 43 months in public, in print, and I've got thousands more to tell. So as long as they're patient and they keep producing and they're well respected amongst their peers, they'll be in the magazine.
100%. What are some of the common denominators of those top performers? Like are there any themes you see through the top 300 or the top 50, top 100?
Oh yes. I have seen a lot of themes because I ask a lot of questions and I take a lot of notes. I think the biggest one is realizing that they need to treat this like a profession. This isn't just a part-time gig. If you want to do real estate and you want to survive. The other one is really caring about the client and the end goal of that client and not just figuring out how to calculate 3% on any number. Now, I will say when we all are new into real estate, I think everybody does that, right? You're so excited. There's big paychecks, 4 and 5 figures sometimes. But the sooner that you can get out of that mindset and you really are helping them achieve their goals, it'll pay off. So I am living proof of if you help enough people get what they want, you get what you want. And I think that you're living proof with that as well with Wichita Life. But in real estate, I think another common denominator is that they are always available. And anyone that thinks that there needs to be a perfect work-life balance is living in la-la land. That does not exist. If you are doing what you love and you can ebb and flow between work and life, then you're winning. Then that is success. That's how I define success. And so I remember, I always love to tell the story of Sissy Corey. She is with Berkshire Hathaway West, and she is a top producer. She's a top producer in Wichita. She's a top producer in Berkshire Hathaway nationally. And she's very humble. I haven't got Sissy to say yes yet, but I will not give up. And we were meeting, and she's like, "I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. Let me answer this." And I was like, "That's okay. Always. That's always okay. Work always comes first. I always know that." And she got on the phone, and she said, "Hey, I'm in a meeting, but I wanted you to know that I got your phone call and I'll call you back." And she said, "I've done that every day from the day that I've started. Everyone knows that I will always answer my phone because it's about relationships." And I respected her so much. There wasn't an ounce in me that felt disrespected. I was like, you're a badass. I get it now. I get it why you're so successful.
No kidding.
But there's been several agents that are always like that. They are so responsive. They are available. They actually care about their clients. They don't care about the numbers.
It's crazy. I think you could apply it to a lot of stuff, but it's like you take care of those small things like that.
That's right.
And it will, don't worry about the money. The money will come if you take care of everything else.
It is so true. I know it sounds cliche, and when you're struggling and you're not, you're hunting and you're not getting anything, it's really difficult, but it's true.
Mm-hmm. I was listening back to a couple other podcasts you've been on just kind of since the beginning of you launching Real Producers. Yeah. And I think the first one, you didn't quite have the numbers yet. And one of the ones a couple years ago, it was like 2/3 women in the top 100. Is that still
It is still the truth.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is very interesting. Every year I calculate that, and it is right on there. I mean, it is mostly women in residential real estate. Yeah,
that's
not for commercial. In commercial real estate, it is like 98% men.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
Wow. I think that commercial real estate is challenging in that you don't have the same platform where all of the data is stored. It's really kind of a back pocket type of thing. It's really, I wouldn't say a good old boys, because when you say that, there's a negative connotation with that, and that's not what I mean at all. Yeah. The gentlemen in commercial real estate in Wichita are phenomenal. And I think, though, that it takes a long time to become established in commercial real estate, and women, step away and they have babies and they raise their children. And I think it's a little bit more difficult in some ways for women to break into that, because it is so male dominated. Sure. But with residential real estate, I couldn't explain that. I mean, I'm sure there's studies out there, but primarily the women get into real estate first, and it's usually the women that corral their husbands into being assistants and then getting the license, and then they're, before you know it, they're husband-wife team. But it is really fun to find out the dynamics and get a layer below just what the data says.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So we are in this beautiful Trussell studio.
I love
for
Troy's.
Podcast.
Yes.
Troy, great studio. Tell me a little bit about that. Is that common across Real Producers, or is that something you just wanted to do? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, coming back to that, lovingly plagiarizing. So a year and a half ago, I was at a conference. We have about 3 conferences a year where all of us get together, and it's so much fun. And I'd been thinking about wanting to do a podcast. Brandon Paulsine had been telling me to do a podcast from the very beginning, and I was like, you're crazy, Brandon. No one wants to hear what I have to say. That doesn't make sense. I can't do it. I don't know what to do. All of those self-limiting beliefs, right? And I was visiting with my friend, Andrew Reaganhard, who's down in Naples, Florida. He owns Southwest Florida Real Producers, very successful. And he started a podcast, and it was just beautiful. And we were having some drinks after conference one day, and he said, Sam, I'm going to send you everything in Google Drive right now, and you just need to go and do it. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, well, there's no excuses now. So I did, and we started out at Groover. I started out with Adam Dreyer, who was my videographer, who's phenomenal. Adam is amazing. And then it just kind of morphed and grew, and Adam's business changed. And then Troy and I kind of came into, Wichita, right? One degree of separation. Yep. And although Troy doesn't do the real estate videography the way that Adam Dreyer does, he does incredible video. And so I thought, okay, well, let's give this a try. And the rest is history. Troy's a joy to work with. Incredibly talented. He's giving me advice every time I see him, and it's just really neat to see a lot of other agents and other people use him as well, because he deserves that. Yeah, if you're interested in doing a podcast, the studio is awesome. You can check out the Beyond the Pages podcast or the Witch Life podcast to check it out. That's right. Yeah, and you just literally turnkey. You walk in and it's all set up. That's right. Start shooting. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Has podcasting been what you thought it would be? Is it more difficult? Is there anything you've learned about it that you didn't know? It would be really difficult without someone like Troy. Yeah. It would have been really difficult to get started without someone like Brandon Paulsine holding my hand. Brandon was so sweet. He would show up to Groover Labs every time I would record, and he would make sure everything was set up. And then Adam, of course. And it would be really difficult without the experts. Sure. And without, beautiful furniture like this and equipment and lighting. It is so fun. Yeah. It is just so fun to get to know these people a little bit more. Like, that's why we named it Beyond the Pages, right? Beyond the ad, beyond the story. Yeah. You dig in a little bit more. And now whether anyone's listening to it or not, I don't know. I don't care. Right. I enjoy it. The people that come on the podcast enjoy it. And that's all that matters for me. No, I agree 100%. When I first started, it was interviewing my little brother who was playing college football, and he had just won a JUCO national title, and I didn't have anything. It was literally set up my phone and use like the voice notes to record the conversation. But it's like, again, I don't really care if people listen. Like, I get to hear these stories, and like, we would probably be having a similar conversation over coffee or lunch. So it's I might as well record it so more people can learn about your story or our story. So, well, and you start out rough, right? If you look at the very bottom, if anyone has time to go to the very first post that we're ever making on our platforms, like, It did not start out pretty.
No,
it did not start out good, right?
Good.
Just like Drake started my Doberman's Instagram, and I took over like 2 weeks later. I was like, you suck, I'm taking this over. And so now they have their own Instagram, and I feel like it's a little bit better, but you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
You just do.
Real quick, I guess before we get to Be Local, events, happy hours, are you still doing that stuff with real producers? How does the event side of things? Because that's a whole nother thing. We've done a little bit with events, and it's a whole nother
isn't it something? It's like planning a wedding.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. So with real producers, we have done several parties. We were doing about 2 huge parties a year, meaning 300 to 400 people were coming. And it was fun, and I loved it, but it was exhausting. And I had to raise 5 figures every time to be able to put on these incredible events. And so thanks to COVID, right, there's always a silver lining. Not only did QR codes come back, so we love that for advertising, but smaller gatherings were born out of COVID. And I have just continued on with those gatherings. So yes, we have a monthly happy hour.
Cool.
In fact, ours is this evening. For the Real Producers happy hours, they are very invite only for my business advertising partners, and then for the agents that I invite. And the agents that are invited are, I'm a lot more loose with that, right? Any agent that shows up is welcome, to be honest. Now, I'm not going to invite all 2,400 realtors because that would be a really big barbell for my sponsors to cover. But anyone that's been featured, and then any agent partners that any of my advertising partners would like to bring on are invited. Nice. And so we typically have between 50 and 75 people every month.
Awesome, yeah.
And it's really nice. It's good networking. It always happens on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday evening. And they, it's just some nice value add, right? It gets these businesses in front of agents in ways that they never probably could have forged otherwise.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, Be Local.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Be Local. How did Be Local start?
Be Local is like your little sister. Be Local is also another magazine, another franchise underneath our publishing umbrella. The Be Local is a new mover product, meaning that it's a resource, a comprehensive guide that goes to everyone that has a new address in Wichita's most populated 22 zip codes.
Okay.
So I can't say that it goes to every single new mover because data is never perfect, and the U.S. Postal Service delivery system is not perfect either. But for the most part, if you are a new mover, whether that means you are a local moving from one address to another, or you're genuinely brand new to Wichita, you're going to receive that gorgeous Be Local magazine in the mail for free within those first 30 to 45 days. The other nice thing is that we've married it, as you know, with the power of social media, right? So having a presence on social media, having the digital magazine, making it available to anybody. So if someone hasn't been seeing Be Local, all they have to do is search us on social media. But the physical magazine is just this beautiful evergreen product where there's content in there for every walk of life. And so they realize this. They realize that it's not just something you look at. It's not some junk mail, that you get in the mailbox when you move. They're going to hang on to it. They're going to realize that it's full of useful information. And then eventually they're going to be trained to turn to Be Local social media wise. Like you wrote, our Wichita Life wrote our Welcome to Wichita note, and that's still in there. And I've also collaborated with other people like Audra Donnell and Wichita Mom Blog, Angela Green, other influencers in town that love the city just as much as we do. And I want to shout you guys out. If they're new to Wichita, or they're finally ready to get out of their COVID shell and they want to start exploring, then they need to have all these resources, right? Because they're gonna go to you for one thing, maybe us for another, Angela for something else. So again, just the rising tide. Yeah,
for sure. From a business perspective, how do you kind of, balance or pitch like the social side of things versus like the magazine? Like, if I'm an advertiser, am I looking at like, okay, I really value that you're sending this awesome magazine out that will sit on their coffee table, or are they like, you pair that with the social? How do you kind of pitch that to them?
Yeah. So with the social, anyone that's an advertising partner is going to get more social media love on our page. That's just the nature of it. But we are allowing people to do sponsored posts, like one-off sponsored posts, because it makes sense. But most of the time we try to keep it very organic, right? Like coffee days open. So of course we're going to go shout them out, a new event coming up, the parade, we wanted to do something fun for that. But we do have the capacity to, allow them to just do social stuff and digital stuff if they so choose.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. So it's 2023. How do you pitch something? Because some people will be like, okay, who cares about magazines?
Yes. I love that objection.
How do you pitch that, or what would you say to that
objection? I love it. I'm not scared of objections anymore. It's like, bring it. I've done thousands of sales meetings. My skin is super thick now. Print is not dead. It's what's being printed, whether it's relevant or not. For sure. Right. And so I want you to put yourself in the mind frame of the last time you moved. And when you moved, your mailbox was inundated with junk mail for a long time. Even as an established homeowner like myself, I've been in my house for over 3 years. I still get junk mail every single day. And most of us can count it a good day when we go to the mailbox and it's all junk mail and we can throw it away. I'm the weirdo with the marketing brain that keeps those and calls on those people because they already believe in print advertising.
That's smart,
print advertising works, but you have to hit your target audience and you got to hit them at the right time. And that's why Be Local is so powerful. You're hitting these people right when they've moved. They're establishing all these new buying habits. New movers are clearly a very sought after target market for most every single business in town. And you're hitting the nail right on the head, right when they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something interesting too is like the cyclical nature of everything, but like marketing or advertising, because it's, for me, like email newsletters, like I'm not the first person with an email newsletter. Like Morning Brew kind of re-kicked that off in 2016, 2017. But it's like, if you ask somebody in 2010, if email marketing is like obviously email marketing is a thing, but like email newsletters or something like that, they'd be like, okay, email's like from the 90s or early 2000s. Like it's already too packed, but it's kind of making a comeback. Same with magazines, I think. I think people value like, again, after COVID, like you're not in person, you do this stuff. It's like having something tangible to hold on to has some value. A
lot of people are like, I'm the person that's making checklists instead of doing it on my phone. I usually am redundant.
Oh, for sure.
But people do want that physicality. They, what happened is when social media and digital, took such a popular rise, people went too far that way. And now they're correcting a little bit more. And if someone has marketing dollars, just like investments with our own money, we have to diversify those. If you want to be seen, you have to be on several platforms in several different, ways, in several different mediums. And if you're going to be spending money on print marketing, like this is a no-brainer.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I can't remember, do you do events for Be Local or any meetups or anything like that? Have you ever tried that?
We did try that in the beginning and they just weren't they were more business to business. It was for my business advertising partners.
For sure.
Because I absolutely cannot share that list of new movers, that there's protection there.
Sure.
And so, I didn't want to abuse having those kinds of contacts. So it's just a different platform. And I had to learn that the hard way, that, I could not make Be Local fit the Real Producers mold. It's a totally different animal, totally different niche, totally different purpose. And we, I'm not to say that we won't ever do events for Be Local, but right now we're just really focusing on social media because we know how powerful that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So digital stuff is easy to kind of keep up to date. The product itself, how often is that changing month to month, year to year? How does that look?
So it's a monthly magazine. So the beauty there is that I have the chance to constantly update it. And I will fully admit that I am looking at your page and I'm reading your emails twice a week when because you are staying abreast of all the restaurants opening and closing. And not only am I using Trussell and Darren Hackney because they have their Live Local food vlogging, but I'm able to keep it updated and relevant. Majority of the content, though, stays evergreen, right? So we're not going to have an advertiser put in their Black Friday special ad because that's probably going to live a long time. You don't want to see that in May. But as the seasons change, like I'll bring the tornado piece back in, and I'll bring like the gardening piece in. As seasons change, I can change content a little bit, but it is very much evergreen. Whereas Real Producers is a brand new 60 pages every single month.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What does your team look like? Because you're running two kind of big publications. What does your team look like? I know you have some help with social media, I think, but what does your team kind of top to bottom look like?
Yeah, me and all my personalities, right? No, so for Real Producers, it's very heavy on Real Producers. So I've got 3 professional photographers. I've got Troy's my videographer. I have a professional writer. I have my assistant who's remote and my ad strategist who is remote. And then I have an incredible woman named Vanessa Whiteside who helps me with my social media strategy.
Very cool.
And she runs the algorithms and the data, and we powwow once a month, and it's incredibly powerful. I've been using Vanessa for over a year, and she does
a great job.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. And then on the Be Local side, I'll have the same assistant that's remote, the ad strategist that's remote, and then social media. And so I hired Brand 5 for my social media. Oh, those girls are killing it. I love Katie and Amanda and everyone. And that's really just the team on Be Local.
Yeah.
It's small. I say we are small but mighty.
Yeah.
And it works.
That's very cool.
I am still learning every day how to balance my time and where to spend my time. I've got these two children that need to continue to grow.
Sure.
And it's not easy, but it is absolutely enjoyable.
Sure.
I enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. What have either or both publications taught you about yourself?
I am capable of so much more than I ever imagined. Yeah. The other thing that's huge is helping enough people get what they want. I'm getting what I want out of life. And, that's not just monetarily, but just connection wise,
Sure.
And having these friends and having these connections and, seeing you and Candace when Lululemon opened or going almost anywhere in town, east side or west side, and knowing somebody everywhere that fills my heart. Like, I love that. I love this city. I love just growing my sphere. And, but I have also learned that since I'm on and always in meetings and always in interviews and sales, I do need that time to recharge. And so COVID taught me to be a homebody. And so I think I'm more balanced now between an extrovert and an introvert.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's healthy as well. What does Wichita need? What is Wichita missing?
Needs more people like you and I. Gosh, Landon, that's a tough one. I think we need people with more genuine, true intentions to better our city and not forward their agenda.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about politically.
Oh, yeah.
I think people need to look at the bigger picture and what's best for our city as whole and detach themselves from emotional things. And we have such great potential here. We really do. And I would love this city to be even better. I would love for my 17-year-old to be sitting in this chair when he's 40 and say, this is not the Wichita I grew up in as a teenager because it's that much better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want Wichita to be twice as awesome in 20 years for our children and their children as it is now for us.
Yeah. It feels like the last probably, I don't know, since I graduated high school, I graduated in 2011, but it's like the last 13 years, 10 to 13 years, there's been like a resurgence in pride and stuff like that. But it also feels like we're just at like the
precipice.
Yeah, the very tip of it. Like it feels like we're about to tip over to whatever that is. I don't know what that means, but like with just new stuff downtown, the new stadium, all that kinds of stuff. But.
Well, I was talking with some commercial lenders the week before spring break, so 2 weeks ago, and none of us can deny inflation right now. Not going to lie. I can spend what I used to spend at Dillon's in 1 week, what I used to spend in a month. But when you see all the construction, especially all the commercial construction, the cranes, everything going up on all parts of the town, do not tell me that we are in that kind of a recession. There's no way.
Right.
I mean, not when you're seeing this much growth and development happening in our city.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool to see. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yes.
Couple kind of random questions I have for you, and then I have some questions that I ask everybody. Okay. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
All right.
First, the thread. You mentioned Audra. What can you talk about your experience with the thread a little bit? I believe you were in cohort 2.
I was in cohort 2.
So tell us about that, and like maybe some of the relationships you've made with those women from that cohort. What does that look like?
Yeah. God bless Audra and her team. She is an amazing entrepreneur, and she brought something to Wichita that we need. We need more things like that, more outside of the box ideas where you're so scared to implement it because you don't know if it's going to work, and you don't regret what you didn't do. So the cohort was amazing. Mentally, physically, spiritually, I made connections that I think I'll always have. I made connections with women that I might not have ever been able to come across.
Sure. And
you learn a lot about yourself. It is really about self-development. Don't become part of the thread if you think you're just going in there to help build your business.
Sure.
No, you're going in there to build your heart and your soul. You're going in there to learn more about yourself as a woman, who you are, who you aren't. And you're around women that are safe. They've left the cattiness of high school behind them, and they wouldn't be in that cohort if they were going to be sabotaging catty. So I love that, and I'm excited to see it grow. I know cohort 5 kickoff is happening in a couple weeks, so I'm excited to go to that and welcome all the ladies, because every time that there's a new one, everyone starts very like closed off and very nervous, then you can see like by the end they're all loving and hugging and crying and best friends, and I'm still connected to those ladies, and I can do business with some of those ladies now. And that was just the icing on the cake. That was never the purpose of joining.
Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah. I think when she called me, it was during COVID, and telling me about it, I was like, I still don't really understand.
Right.
But like now seeing more products, they're graduates or however they're termed.
The alumna.
The alumna. And just seeing how cool and the community she's built, it's insane.
Yep.
So
she's
really
built an amazing community as well.
Yeah, very cool.
It is. We need more of that.
How long have you been doing a vision board? And what's on it for 2023?
This is such a good question. So my friend, my sweet friend Shayla Holman, invited me over in early 2018 to make a vision board. And I still have that vision board. I just keep covering up the numbers, the 18 to the 19 and then the 20 and the 20. And what's on it is a lot of words, a lot of like affirmations, positive things, some pictures, but mostly a lot of words that have meaning to me, or like little lists of things that I would want to accomplish. And I've left a lot of the things on there that I have already accomplished because it's incredible to see that come to fruition.
Absolutely.
But it's right there. You know, my desk faces a wall, and on the wall in front of me is, some things for work, my vision board. And so I'm looking at it every day. Subconsciously, I'm soaking it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
I love that.
I love
I've not
vision
done one,
boards.
but I like the idea.
You've got to get a huge stack of magazines and just go for it. It's never too late.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's in March. Just do it.
There we go. You're a single mom.
Yes.
Tell me about the challenges, kind of what you learned about yourself, the parallels between entrepreneurship, anything like that. What can you tell me about that?
Oh gosh. Well,
that's a loaded question.
You might make me cry on that one. I am a single mom. I've been mom and dad to Drake since he was 9 months old, and he is an incredible soul. He is so forgiving. I've put him through hell for sure, but he is hilarious. And he is so motivated, so kind, just such a good boy. I think you met him there. Yeah.
Very nice kid.
He is my best friend for sure. He understands me. I've been very open with him. I mean, very open as far as my struggles. You know, when I was launching Real Producers, we had to move back in with my mom. Yeah. And I had drained my savings account, and I actually took out a line of credit. And we were living very poor. You know, I was a poor single mom, and that was my motivation, was to work my ass off. There was no way Real Producers was not going to work for me. And he was there through all of it. And now he's reaping those rewards, and we have a lot of fun. I mean, more often than not, we are more talking as friends. Yeah. Very rarely do I have to come down on him as a parent. Sure. We get along really well, and he's very open. He's very honest, and we laugh a lot. So he's a really good kid. I feel really lucky. My mom and my dad were a very integral part of me being a young single mother, because I had him. Sure. I got pregnant in college and at KU, and came back, had the baby. My parents helped raise him. My parents were essentially my spouse. And so they infused so much love and stability into him to allow me to work through being 23 and having a child. Yeah. And it all turned out really well. And I think what that has taught him is he is capable of so much, and he can do whatever he wants to do. And Absolutely. I'm going to be his biggest cheerleader. I've got his back no matter what. And I'm really excited to see what he's going to become.
Yeah, absolutely. I am too. Yeah. He is a great role model for what love looks like, and hardworking. So yeah.
Thank you, Landon.
What is something you often recommend to people? Books, podcasts, movies, anything like that?
My favorite book is The Miracle Morning.
Okay.
I read that book in 2016, and it has changed my life. Okay. And I say changed my life because I basically do something of that book every single day. Wow. And I would say that's life-changing, right? It altered what I do with my mornings. It made me a morning person. And it made me do a lot more meditation and affirmation and reading and visualization and all of those things. I just think it's phenomenal. I think his story is amazing. I think that's probably the thing that I recommend to people the most. I recommend, just movement, exercise. I think it's your best drug. I think it's your best fix. I'm just a huge health nut. And I think that, we only get one chance in this tent, in this physical body that our soul is living in, and we have to take care of it if we want to live well into our 80s and 90s. And my grandmother's 93. We've got centenarians in my lineage on my mother's side and on the females, and I want to be a centenarian as well. And Absolutely. So that starts at a very young age.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will definitely link that below and check it out. So
yes, thank you. Hal Elrod, he's amazing.
Okay. What is your favorite failure in any aspect of your life?
Well, I think what I thought was a failure of getting pregnant in college turned out to be the biggest blessing in my life. That was a very tough time. I was studying to go to dental school, studying for my DAT when I found out that I was pregnant. And I felt that my life was over. I felt that I'd ruined my life. There was no question if I wanted to have that baby. I'd always wanted to be a mother. It just wasn't the right timing for me at the time. But that failure turned out to be, the reason for my life, the reason I work so hard, the reason that I get up, the reason that I'll never stop trying.
Yeah. And God has perfect timing, even if we can't see it.
It's true.
Flip side of that question, what is your definition of success?
Yeah, so we touched on that a little bit. I would say doing what you love and not feeling like it's a chore, not feeling like it's a job. I think when you're doing what you love, you're making money at it, and you're also making an impact, I think that's a trifecta.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Tell me about,
don't take me back to high school. Don't do that.
Tell me about a life motto that you live by, or what is some of the best advice that you've ever received?
You can either live with the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And I read that to myself every morning. I said that out loud, or I would read it in order to force myself to become a morning person. And now I can't help but wake up by 6 a.m. I think also that if you let love win, I'm a big believer in just loving all of our humans, loving you as a person, you as a business owner. There is something to love in every single person, and just always defaulting to that.
Yeah, absolutely. What is a habit? We've touched on this a little bit. But what is a habit that you've developed over the past few years that most improved your life? So since 2018, you've done the
vision board,
the vision board and miracle morning stuff. Are there any other habits you've developed?
Yeah, I think professionally, the biggest habit that's helped me is time blocking. Right. So looking at that calendar and getting things organized and controlling your calendar so it doesn't control you. And so I am very regimented in the way that I operate. And so every Monday I'm always working from home, doing admin and calls and working in the business. And then Tuesday through Friday are all my sales appointments and calls and realtor interviews and loving on business partners or doing community networking things. But I think time blocking is powerful.
Yeah. Something I could definitely take some notes from. So
yes, especially with the third on the way, you're going to need more time blocking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part of Wichita, or what's a hidden gem in Wichita?
Oh gosh, this is hard. My favorite part of Wichita. So I live out east, close to Andover, and I love nothing more than taking Douglas or Central all the way downtown, or First Street, or Second Street, I should say, because Second goes west. I just love the art that you see. I love the people. It's like the perfect amount of busyness. But I do try to take different routes. I have a very intelligent uncle who is my business mentor, and that's his biggest advice is, well, number one, to delegate everything, right? So that your business can operate without you. Not there yet, but to always take different routes, because he's a big believer in the butterfly effect. And you just never know what you're going to see or who you're going to run into by taking different routes or going to different grocery stores. So I love that we can get around very easily in Wichita. But as far as a hidden gem, I would say, gosh, that would be really difficult. I love just the different dog parks.
Oh yeah.
There's a couple of dog parks. Not that my dogs are the best behaved dogs when it comes to dog parks. I need to go at times when there's not a lot of other dogs there, or I can put them in their own fence. But I would like to see more of that, actually. I would like to see more green spaces, more dog parks, things like that. I told Will Murfin that he needs to turn that property at Central and 13th and Webb into like a paid dog park business idea, where a membership based, if they make it really nice. It could be like the Sedgwick County Park of East Wichita. And I would pay a pretty penny to be able to have access to that kind of a dog park. So inventors, investors, good idea. Get out there,
take the idea and run with it.
Please create that for us, and then just give me a discount on membership. That's all I ask.
I've been to the Andover Dog Park, and it's really nice, but I haven't been to many other ones. But yeah, that's cool. Something that a lot of people liked when I interviewed Troy actually was, you don't have to say these are the exact top three, but what are your top three or so restaurants in Wichita? If you had to recommend three restaurants to somebody that was coming to Wichita.
I would say Red Rock is my favorite. I've been going to Red Rock since before Drake was born, and Drake is 17. I would say Il Vicino is my favorite pizza. And what else? I'm a big fan of Newport.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, especially at the right time of the year when you're sitting out on the patio and you can be looking at the water and the ducks and the people. And I think they always give good service, and it's just delicious food.
So go to Bradley Fair.
Go to Bradley Fair. Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit, but is there anything you wish Wichita had that it doesn't, or what would you improve about Wichita?
Well, I'm very happy that we have Top Golf. That's where all the teenagers hang out, by the way. So if you can blame it on all the teenagers for it being so busy and not getting any bays. I would just like to see more development along our river. Yes. So 50 years ago, when my grandfather, who was a builder alongside Willard Garvey, was helping develop our city, on both sides of the river, he had visions to really make that river a focal point, clean it up, and just get stuff on both sides of it. It's just such a natural draw. And we are still either too close-minded or running our own agendas. And that's disheartening. We've got this amazing gem right here, and we need to utilize it. Yeah. So to our local city officials and our soon-to-be newly elected city officials, we need to capitalize on that because we're really missing out. That is low-hanging fruit.
I agree. I think I mentioned that to somebody when I interviewed them somewhat recently too, but it's like I don't even know what that looks like. As somebody that isn't in the industry, it's like obviously there's the Sentry II option. You take that off the table and develop that.
Right.
We don't need to get into
We don't
that
need to go there. Yeah.
Get canceled or do whatever.
Exactly. Let's not take anyone off.
To be fair, I would be fine with tearing it down. Just if people need to know what side I'm on,
I'm on your side.
You could convince me to keep it, but I'm fine with tearing it down.
Well, you look at the data and it's very clear.
Exactly. But like Gander Mountain, like that was kind of a flop, and I think it's King of Freight now. But it's like, do they need a big office building right there, or can we?
I don't think they do anymore with this day and age. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't even know if there's people working. I don't even know if they're working remote or what. But it's like, can we move them elsewhere and raise that or do something? Yeah. Like I don't know. There's a lot of space.
You go down to like Oklahoma City, and they've got all of that boathouse area. Oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. I was just thinking of that the other day. Like they've got like this vertical climbing gym that like adults can do, and all these different things. Like get more stand-up paddleboards, get more kayaks, get more water activities down there, especially with our Keeper of the Plains and what happens in the evenings. And I mean, it could just be such another great, awesome thing to do. Get boat rides, get, restaurants over the water. Yeah. There's just look at other, just lovingly plagiarize from across the nation. Yeah. Right?
For sure.
Just by implementing some of their ideas and picking from all different cities and, bringing that all together as a combination, that's not hurting them. It's only going to help us.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Last question. What does Wichita mean to you?
Well, Wichita means home. Wichita means, I think that we're perfectly balanced. I think that we're very lucky to live in the middle of the United States. I always say that we have a crystal ball here. We can see what's about to hit us, what's coming from the coast, so we can insulate ourselves, we can prepare, we can create, we can abort, whatever that looks like with our businesses. But I think Wichita I think it's fantastic. I think it's an excellent place to call home. I'm really proud to be from Wichita.
I agree 100%. Sam, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun to talk.
So much fun.
Where can people find your different projects?
Yeah, so you can go to, you can find Wichita Real Producers or Be Local Wichita on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube for Real Producers. Just find me. And it's pretty easy. My last name is very complicated. Samantha Lucciarini.
Lucciarini. I had to say it out loud, so there we go.
Yeah, thank you so much, Landon.
Awesome. Yep, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Bye.